Meanwhile, the Celtics got a strong win over the Bucks on Christmas Day, winning 139-118. They improved to an NBA best 24-10. Jayson Tatum leading the way with 41 points. Jaylen Brown scored 13 of his 29 points in the fourth quarter.
We've had a bit of a rough stretch over the last couple of weeks. We dropped some games, had some guys in and out the lineup, haven't shot the ball great. So to come out here tonight, everybody's watching, holiday spirit, good energy. I think it's the perfect place to shake everything off and come out and play some good basketball.
We do have a really good team, in all honesty. We're not perfect, and nobody is. And, like I said earlier, we're going to have some bad moments, some tough games. And that's fine. And, there's nothing that you can change about those games. It's all about just how do you respond.
All right, let's get into the Daily Thread now and bring in Chris Forsberg, our Celtics insider, NBC Sports Boston.com. Forsberg, I look at the Celtics team, and it kind of felt like they were trending in the right direction after losing 5 of 6. I thought they played better in the second half against Indiana, where they showed a little fight, carried that over on Friday to get that win against Minnesota, and that set them up for Sunday, which was just the performance that you needed to see from this team that had been struggling, but to knock off the other team that should be competing for the Eastern Conference title along with them, to knock off Milwaukee and the way they did. What did that say to you?
Yeah. So, first off, I think we were both pretty consistent, right? It felt like as much as they were struggling in that stretch, you didn't panic too much. But as it persisted, and especially that first half against Indiana, you're like, man, what's kind of going on with this team? Why, since Golden State, have they gone so sideways? And what was refreshing about Christmas Day is that the Celtics come out there against an elite level opponent, and instead of falling on their face like they did against the Warriors, they probably had one of their best games of the year, certainly offensively, with the way they were hitting shots. And it was even actually surprising at halftime that it was as close as it was. And then to watch them sort of blow that thing open with Tatum being great in that third quarter. But even beyond Tatum, I thought the supporting cast was really good. Derek White had a billion plays in there. Rob came in and tipped the ball and kept it alive on a bunch of plays. Al knocked down threes. And then you got Jaylen Brown doing what he did in the fourth quarter to get it to the finish line. So you walk away feeling better about this team, that you feel maybe, okay, maybe the last 6 games were more of a blip than an indication that they overachieved at the start of the year. And you just hope that as we kind of enter the doldrums, they can find the motivation to stay at a high level, because I think seeding is now going to be super important. And as crazy as that sounds, to start bringing that up before you even hit the halfway point, like, all these games matter and you can't really downshift. And because you had a little funk, you got to take advantage of every opportunity moving forward. And
we do have to note, however, that the Bucks were without Chris Middleton. But again, statement win for the Celtics. And obviously, you much rather have a statement win than to look at it and say, well, you struggled against Golden State and you struggled against Milwaukee. So take the win for sure. Meanwhile, you brought up Jayson Tatum's name. And watching him in warmups, they had a shot of him before the broadcast, and I was like, he's going for 50 tonight. Now, he didn't get to 50, 41 points for Jayson Tatum, but what is it about these big moments, about going up against other superstars, other MVP candidates around this league, that kind of elevates Jayson Tatum's game? Because it's what he's done pretty much all year.
Yeah, what is it? The Ric Flair, to be the man, you got to beat the man. And so, like, if Jayson Tatum wants to be MVP, he's got to be ready every time there's another candidate on the other side of the floor. And take away that one game against Steph Curry, it feels like he's sure risen to the occasion each time. And just like you said, there's just a little different twinkle in his eye when he knows there's another superstar over there, whether it's been Luka or Ja or Jokic or whatever. And you start thinking ahead to New Year's Day when they're back there in Denver. And I think that's going to be a monster matchup. Maybe one we'll look back on and think about when everyone's casting their MVP ballots. And so I just think Tatum has been really good in those matchups. Yeah, I yearn for the consistency. I want to see him do that on nights where you're going up against the Pacers. And if you're struggling, he finds a way to get you there. But far more than any other season, he's been consistent with that. And I do love that when it matters most, when there's other superstars, not only does he rise to the occasion and do what he's done offensively, he wants to take on that challenge. He wants to guard Giannis in stretches. And so that's what's separating him for that conversation right now. That's why he's in that mix with Giannis and Jokic and all those guys, because of how he's playing and how he wants to be the best on both sides of the ball.
You talked about the defense there from Jayson Tatum, but their defense in general on Giannis. You saw Giannis, and this could have been that he was maybe settling a little more, wasn't attacking the basket as much as we sometimes see Giannis do. But what did the Celtics do defensively to slow him down? I mean, 9 for 22, that's a good bad game, if you will. It's still not that bad, but for the Celtics to kind of limit him and not allow him to be a force in this one.
Yeah, no, they're about as good as you can get when you're going against Giannis, right? And so he just looked like he settled early, and then he got a little frustrated going at Jaylen Brown there after the whole Drew Holiday grabbing the jersey, and there was like a little flare up there, and his brother screaming at all the Celtics. It's so funny because the one thing I walk away from that situation thinking is it's usually the Celtics that lose their cool in those moments, and they come unraveled and they don't catch themselves. It was interesting to see Bobby Portis and Giannis be the ones who got frustrated, who couldn't control their emotions. I thought the Celtics defense was good. They tried a bunch of different things in terms of throwing other bodies at him. Like Blake Griffin got dusted off for his once a week appearance and thrown in there because he played a good playoff series against Giannis a couple years ago. Scal brought it up. Giannis doesn't want to go against guys who try to take charges. So if you can throw Marcus Smart and even Derek White and Blake Griffin out there, those guys are among the best in the league at doing that. It just makes him think a little bit more when he's out there and how much he wants to attack the basket. And look, that's the key. You just got to kind of get him in his own head, because if he's just Giannis, like, look out. And I guarantee he'll be better in the playoffs. So you just got to kind of buckle up and be happy that for one night he didn't have it.
Speaking of big men as well, because DJ and I kind of, gave you a hard time on Friday night. Celtics, were without Robert Williams on Friday night, but taking a look at what he's done last 4 games since he's been back. Missed one due to illness.
Why do we have to put the record in there?
Well, that was the thing, Forsberg, when we were talking to him on Friday. I mean, they won without him, and he was 0-3 going into Sunday's game. No, he's been good. 18 minutes coming off the bench, about 7 points, 6 rebounds, over a block per game. But again, like the record, I don't think really reflects things. He kind of just came back. It was poor timing. What have you seen from Rob Williams, though? I thought his bounce was really good the other night, probably the game against Indiana, the second half of that game. You really saw a great bounce from Robert Williams, but what have you seen overall from him on his return here?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I thought actually he looked a little sluggish in the first half yesterday. And as I'm sitting here telling people it's not Rob, that the reason for their 0-3 record in those games, certainly the reintegration is taking a little bit. What was surprising is they even threw out the starter lineup from last season at the end of the first half yesterday. And I think it was -6 in 3 minutes. And so, they're still figuring it out. They played 5 out for most of the season and spread the floor and given themselves space. And so it's just taking a little bit of a reacclimatization. But in the second half, I thought Rob was really good. Had that block on Portis on the baseline where, most guys would have fouled in that situation, and instead it goes the other way. And look, I think ultimately to reach the highest ceiling of possible, and no surprise the way that Time Lord jumps out of the gym, you need him to be healthy and to be playing to the utmost Time Lord level and in sync with this group in the starters. So that's their big challenge moving forward to me, is figuring it out how it works with Rob, how the rotation looks, because he moves back to a starter role eventually, which I assume will happen. I'm gonna have to have a talk with Missoula if Rob's not going to be in that starting lineup pretty soon. But ultimately, you see how much of a difference maker he can be out there. And I do think that it'll start to pay off better, and we can stop putting the record up of 1-3 because it'll get better.
Yeah, we're not going to do that to you again. It was tongue in cheek the other night, but we also wanted to give you an opportunity with the Celtics winning.
I like it. I can take it, Giles. I'm a big boy.
Yeah,
Rob's got to be better too, so it's okay.
All right. Well, Chris Forsberg, you stay great. Thanks for joining us.